king of German mercenaries.
Chapter 232 Grand Wedding. As the former secret controller of the Holy See, Innocent VIII, who served as Pope for 8 years, was actually a puppet secretly controlled by Archbishop Rovere. Archbishop Rovere still has many die-hard followers. In fact, among his followers who came to East Frisia, there were 3 who were once famous Italian swordsmen. Their mission was to protect the safety of Archbishop Rovere. However, this was useless. Facing the elite guards of the Auric Palace, these followers surrendered one after another. Even the 3 powerful Italian swordsmen could not escape being captured. Because Marin released the humanoid beast Khan. Khan had never met an opponent in infantry combat. Khan had never ridden a horse since he was a child, so his riding skills were average, which was why he was relatively average. Khan, swinging a mace, was like a bulldozer. The one-handed swords of the 3 Italian swordsmen were directly smashed away or broken. Then, the swordsman without a sword was directly pinned down by a group of guards. Archbishop Rovere, as Marin's de facto father-in-law, was naturally treated with favor. The civil servants accompanying him were also not treated badly. Only the accompanying guards were beaten up by Marin's men before they calmed down, and all of them had bruises on their faces. No matter how angry and how loudly Archbishop Rovere yelled, the guards guarding the villa pretended not to hear him. Then, they served the Archbishop oriental delicacies that he had never tasted before. However, the angry Archbishop picked up the bowl to eat, put down the chopsticks, and scolded Marin as usual. Moreover, in order to irritate Marin, Archbishop Rovere cursed in German so that the guards could understand and convey it to Marin. But Marin didn't care at all after hearing it, and asked the guards to pretend not to hear it. Then, in the blink of an eye, April 18th arrived quickly. At 9 o'clock in the morning, all members of the Hoffmann family, dressed in their best clothes, gathered at the Auric Palace. At 10 o'clock, Marin, escorted by a ceremonial horse team wearing Red Lobster soldier uniforms, only the hats were not bear fur hats, took a carriage to the Auric Cathedral and waited for the bride at the door. The Auric Palace is very close to the cathedral, and of course, the city of Auric is also very small. Despite the slow speed, Marin still arrived at the Auric Cathedral in 5 minutes. Then, 5 minutes after Marin arrived at the church, Angela, who set out from the castle outside the city, arrived at the door of the church in a very luxurious golden carriage, accompanied by her family, the Nelson family. Although this carriage cannot be compared with the golden carriage given by Australia to the Queen of England, it is also inlaid with a lot of gold foil on the outside of the carriage, which is very glittering and luxurious. Then, Angela, wearing a pure white silk wedding dress, led by her fake father, old Nelson, walked along the red carpet that had been laid out earlier, toward Marin who was waiting at the door of the church. After receiving the person, Marin did not enter the church immediately, but signed an order first. The order was simple, announcing that Hannah Nelson, Angela's pseudonym, was officially changed to Angela von Hoffmann. In fact, in Europe, women do have the tradition of changing their surnames to their husbands after marriage. But generally speaking, women change their surnames to their husbands after the wedding. However, Marin considered that Angela's previous name was a fake one. If she swore to marry God with a fake name, it would be too disrespectful. Therefore, Marin simply changed Angela's name before swearing to marry. Anyway, he was the boss and he had the final say. Although it is unconventional to change the name in advance, the wedding is imminent, so no one thinks it is inappropriate. After all, they are getting married soon, so it is okay to change the name in advance. Moreover, Marin took the opportunity to change Angela's name back to her original name, so as not to use an old-fashioned name like Hannah for the wedding oath. After the name change was successful, Marin entered the church first and stood beside Bishop Ritchie, ready to go. Old Nelson, with his daughter Angela, followed closely behind him and came to Bishop Ritchie. Next, Bishop Rich adjusted his reading glasses and began to formally go through the process. After praising God for a while, Bishop Rich began to question both parties. Marin von Hoffmann, according to God's holy will, are you willing to enter into a marriage relationship with this woman and live together? Will you love her, comfort her, respect her, and protect her while you live? Will you be willing to give up everything and be faithful to her forever, whether in health or in sickness? Marin quickly replied, I do. Then, the powerful old bishop asked Angela as usual. Angela von Hoffmann. Old Bishop Rich frowned. It was the first time for him to see a man and a woman take the same surname when taking the oath. He felt a little uncomfortable. According to God's holy will, are you willing to enter into a marriage relationship with this man and live together? Will you love him, comfort him, respect him, and protect him for the rest of your life? Whether in health or illness, are you willing to give up everything and be loyal to him forever? Angela was a little shy, but she still looked up bravely and solemnly swore, I do. Then, Bishop Rich looked up at the guests and asked, "Who objects to the union of these two?" Everyone shook their heads vigorously. Just kidding, whoever dared to say no, Marin would probably order him to be dragged out and chopped off. Archbishop Rovere, the only person who was qualified to object, was currently being held under house arrest by Marin in a villa in the east of the city. Seeing that no one objected, Bishop Rich took Angela's right hand from old Nelson and handed it to Marin. Then, Marin followed Bishop Rich and began to take the oath. Bishop Rich said one sentence, and Marin followed it. "I, Marlin von Hoffmann, will marry you, Angela von Hoffmann." Speaking of this, Marlin himself felt a little weird, "as my legal wife. From now on, no matter good or bad, no matter rich or poor, no matter healthy or sick, I will love and cherish you until death separates us. In the presence of God, I swear to you." Then, under the arrangement of Bishop Ritchie, Marin put his hand in Angela's hand, and Angela began to swear with the old bishop, "I, Angela von Hoffmann, will marry you, Marin von Hoffmann, and from now on, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness or health, I will love and cherish you until death do us part. In the presence of God, I swear to you." After the oath, Bishop Rich took a heavy diamond ring from the best man Schwartz. Marin bought this diamond ring from Portugal at a high price. The diamond on it weighs 20 carats and is a beautiful blue diamond. Marin spent 10,000 gold coins to get this ring. Although the price is expensive, Marin thinks it is worth it. Moreover, this blue diamond was polished into a heart shape by the craftsman, which makes it more valuable. When the 20-carat heart-shaped blue diamond ring appeared on Bishop Rich's hand, the guests exclaimed. It turned out that it was placed in a box by Schwartz, and no one knew that the wedding ring was so beautiful and luxurious. After receiving the heart-shaped blue diamond wedding ring, Bishop Rich was also stunned for a moment, and was amazed at Marin's wealth, but he quickly got into the mood. "May God bless this ring and may the giver and receiver of it be faithful to each other and love each other forever until the end of their lives." Then, under everyone's attention, Marin put the diamond ring on Angela's left ring finger. Then, Marin and Angela got on the gold-lined carriage and, under the escort of a large group of cavalry, circled the city 3 times before returning to the Auric Palace. Then, they began to host a grand banquet for the guests. In order to celebrate the wedding, Marin bought a lot of fine wine and used Chinese food. The only staple food was bread, not rice, but white bread made of wheat flour. The guests, except for Marin's men, were all conquered by the delicious Chinese food and began to eat heartily and scramble to eat. Fortunately, Marin had prepared in advance and prepared enough portions for each dish so that the guests could eat their fill. But after the banquet, Marin was amused to see that many guests left with bulging stomachs and needed the help of waiters to walk steadily and get on their carriages. Chapter 233, Reconciliation between the father-in-law and the son-in-law, Part 1. After the marriage was concluded, Marin finally felt relieved. He had sworn to God that no one in Europe at that time would dare to disrupt it. Unless he wanted to be opposed by the whole of Europe. However, that night, Marin was not in a hurry to do that with Angela. After all, Angela was only 16 years old and was still growing. So, at night, Marin just hugged Angela to sleep and told her a few stories before going to bed. As for really doing something, he had to wait until Angela was 18 years old. If she got pregnant, it would be very harmful to the woman's body if she did that too early. Marin wanted to have many children and grandchildren in the future, so he had to wait until Angela grew up before making her pregnant. However, sleeping with a sweet-smelling little beauty at night was also a test of one's determination. Then, Marin still stretched out his dirty hands. The next morning, Angela's face was red. She thought she had done everything and was waiting to get pregnant and have a baby. In fact, Marin just gave her a simple, physical examination. After 2 days of boredom, Marin remembered that his father-in-law was still locked up in the villa. So, he found an excuse to get Angela away, and went to the villa with Con and a few guards, intending to talk to his father-in-law. Entering the living room of the villa, Marin saw Archbishop Rovere with red eyes. However, Archbishop Rovere did not get angry on the spot. Instead, he sent his men away before rushing over to catch Marin. Marin grabbed Archbishop Rovere's hands as usual, and continued to persuade him, "Calm down. How can I stay calm? You have harmed my daughter, how can I stay calm?" Archbishop Rovere said a little crazily. Marin also sent Con and others away, asking them to restrain the other subordinates of Archbishop Rovere in the villa and not let them go out, and then he spoke to Archbishop Rovere, "Father-in-law. Get lost. I'm not your father-in-law, you're a robber who robbed my daughter. We are true love. You lied to my daughter. Can we talk about this? I came here to talk to you, but you imprisoned me. How dare you say this?" Archbishop Rovere jumped up in anger. What do you call negotiation? You're just using the French diplomatic documents to force me. Marin felt helpless. Then you should at least let me see my daughter. You won't even let me see her. Aren't you feeling guilty? You must have lied to my daughter. Marin was a little embarrassed, and he felt guilty. Who told him to tamper with Archbishop Rovier's private letter? However, he couldn't be a coward. You are not fit to see Angela in this state. Go look in the mirror. Can you still listen to other people's opinions now? Even if Angela told you that she wanted to marry me, I guess you would just pull her away rudely. Archbishop Rovier was silent now. Indeed, this was what he had planned. Besides, it's too late to say anything now. Angela and I have already sworn our marriage vows before God and in front of more than 60,000 East Frisian subjects. Queen Anne was married to His Majesty Maximilian I, and she also married Charles VIII, didn't she? Although Archbishop Rovier knew that Marin was right, he couldn't help but refute. You are an archbishop. Your Majesty Maximilian I's marriage was a proxy marriage, which was against the rules. Charles VIII declared it illegal, which was not nonsense. But Angela and I both swore to get married in person before God, so it is reasonable and legal. I suddenly remembered that Angela's real name cannot be revealed. If she swears under a false name, your marriage will still be illegal. Archbishop Rovier suddenly laughed. Angela is his daughter, and her real name cannot be revealed at all, otherwise Alexander VI will definitely make trouble for Marin. You don't have to worry about this, father-in-law. I have already made preparations. How do you solve it? Change your name in advance. Before the wedding oath, I ordered Angela to change her name to my last name. Is this possible? Isn't this against the rules? Archbishop Rovier was dumbfounded. What are the rules? I am the lord of the county of East Frisia. In East Frisia, my words are the rules. Marin said domineeringly. No one has ever done this before. Women usually change their names after marriage. Excuse me, father-in-law, is there any law in the world that prohibits changing one's name before marriage? I really don't have it. That's it. Angela is now Angela von Hoffmann, which is her real name. We all swear by our real names before God. So there is no illegality. Marin said proudly. Because of the name change, Marin gave himself his cleverness. Well, you are really shameless. Archbishop Rovier was at a loss for what to do with Marin, who had a rogue face. Thank you for the compliment. As a noble, shamelessness is a basic quality. I think, father-in-law, when you were in control of the Holy See, you did a lot of shameless things, right? Get out. You are shameless, and your whole family is shameless. I am a faithful servant of God. Oh, father-in-law, if you are really a faithful servant of God, where did Angela and Felice come from? Catholic clergy are required to be celibate, so Archbishop Rovier's having an illegitimate daughter is actually a violation of the commandments. Archbishop Rovier blushed. In fact, Marin felt a little regretful. He had been planning to reconcile with his father-in-law today, so why did he start arguing? So, he decided to have a light-hearted chat. Father-in-law. Get lost. Don't call me father-in-law. Well, Bishop Rovier. I think you want to marry Angela to the son of that French count because you want the French to send troops to help you fight back to Rome. Although Archbishop Rovier did not respond directly, he acquiesced. But I don't think that's possible. Why? Archbishop Rovier was very dissatisfied. His plan of many years was rejected by this young son-in-law. Think about it. No matter how bad Alexander VI is, he is still a legitimate pope elected by the Holy See. The French can bully him, but can they help you kill him? Would the shrewd French do such a crime as murdering the pope? Archbishop Rovier remained silent, but from his expression, it was clear that he agreed with Marin's words. So, I think the French are just using you, and they can't really help you overthrow the current pope. Similarly, you are also using the French. If you really become the pope, you won't really listen to the French. Because the Pope of Rome is not born with the same kind of French people who want to occupy the Italian peninsula. You see it clearly. Archbishop Rovier nodded. He finally calmed down a little and agreed with the analysis of his young son-in-law. Alexander VI is Spanish, and he always considers things from the perspective of Spain's interests. Spain and France are rivals, so the French are very dissatisfied with Alexander VI. Therefore, they pulled you here just to disgust Alexander VI and cause trouble for him. Archbishop Rovier frowned. Although he didn't want to admit it, he knew that what Marin said made sense. As far as I know, Louis XII was upset that his father was chosen as the Duke of Milan but failed to take office. So, I think Louis XII will definitely think of attacking the Duchy of Milan. How did you know this? Archbishop Rovere was a little surprised. He was in Paris, so he had heard about this secret. But Marin, who was in faraway Germany, also knew about it. That's my guess. The French have always been greedy. I think Louis XII will not only attack Milan, but will also not let go of Naples, which he had occupied. After all, that is a huge territory. Archbishop Rovere was somewhat surprised. Why do you care about these things? Do you want to participate in the Italian war and plot against Louis XII like you did against Charles VIII? Archbishop Rovere asked. Marin started out as a mercenary, and Archbishop Rovere thought that Marin wanted to continue participating in the Italian war to gain fame. I've become the ruler of a country, why am I still working so hard? To be honest, it's not difficult to plot against Louis XII. But I won't do it myself. Why? If I really plot against Louis XII, I will have offended 2 generations of French kings. By then, I will be the French's #1 enemy. They may not be able to deal with the Italian Prince's alliance or the Holy Roman Empire, but they will have no problem dealing with my East Frisia. I have territory now. I can escape from the priests, but I cannot escape from the church. What if your emperor asks you to send troops to fight against Louis XII? Send your men. I won't go there myself. Let my men help His Majesty the Emperor fight against the French. By then, they will be considered mercenaries and will wear the uniforms of the Emperor's army. Even if they defeat the French, it won't have much to do with me. The main hatred is not with me. You are so cunning. That's right. Angela and I just got married. In the future, I hope that my child with Angela will be able to safely inherit the county of East Frisia. If we openly offend the French, life will not be easy. Thinking that his daughter would give birth to a child in the future and he would become a grandfather, Archbishop Rovere showed a rare gentle smile on his face. Chapter 234, Reconciliation between the father-in-law and the son-in-law, Part 2, by the way, father-in-law, do you want to be the Pope? Marin suddenly raised a surprising topic. Archbishop Rovere was so scared that he looked around and was relieved when he found that no one was eavesdropping. Although he had always had this idea, he couldn't say it in public. Fortunately, there seemed to be no one around. Don't worry. I have taken your people under my watch. They won't come out to disturb us. And my people don't understand Latin. You've already said that the French won't really help me. How can I become Pope with that old bastard Alexander VI around? Now that Alexander VI is dead, don't you have a chance? What nonsense. Is it so easy for Alexander VI to die? Besides, if the Pope is murdered, it will be a shocking event. According to what you said, even a big country like France would not dare to bear such a crime. Do I dare? You can do it, right? Marin asked without caring about anything else. I can do it and I can't do it. The Pope was assassinated and I can't escape responsibility. If there is an investigation, will anyone be willing to elect me as Pope? They can't choose a person who murdered the previous Pope. If that happens, the Holy See will be in chaos. Archbishop Rovere did not give a direct answer, but Marin also got the answer. After all, the Rovere family had controlled the Vatican for many years, and Archbishop Rovere had once controlled the previous Pope, so naturally they had many of their own people in the Vatican. Although it was difficult to murder Alexander VI, it was not impossible. However, he was worried that even if he used a hidden pawn to kill Alexander VI, it would cause resentment among the members of the College of Cardinals. At that time, they might not be happy to elect him as Pope. In that case, it would be a bargain for others. What if Alexander VI was poisoned by Cantrera, a unique poison of the Borgia family? Marin smiled mysteriously. He suddenly remembered that when he saved Angela last time, the Borgia family member named Umberto who was killed had a packet of the legendary poison, Cantrera, on him. Marin knew that in history, the death of Alexander VI was a complete accident. Now, he has traveled through time and influenced European history. Then, Alexander VI might not have accidentally drunk his own poison powder in 1503 and died from it. If Alexander VI had lived for another 10 years, his father-in-law would not have become the Pope. If his father-in-law could not become the Pope, he would not be able to gain any benefits. So he decided to take out the packet of Cantrera and give it to Archbishop Rovere, so that Archbishop Rovere, who had a strong network of connections in the Vatican, could find a way to poison Alexander VI. Cantrera? If Alexander VI was poisoned by Cantrera, no one would doubt me. In fact, everyone would think that Alexander VI's death was God's punishment. But the problem is that I don't have a poison like Cantrera. It is said that only a few core members of the Borgia family have this poison. Peripheral members can't get it at all. I once sent people to infiltrate the Borgia family, but I couldn't get this poison. In fact, what Marin didn't know was that in history, the death of Alexander VI was the work of Archbishop Rovere. Because the death of Alexander VI was too strange. How could a servant following the Pope make such a low-level mistake and put the family's unique poison into the water for the master to drink? Obviously, there was something wrong with this servant. He did not do it unintentionally, but intentionally. Who were Alexander VI and his son? What kind of people did they have under their command? How could they bring such a stupid servant with them? Obviously, this servant was a hidden man planted by Alexander VI's enemies. In fact, this servant was Archbishop Rovere's man. Of course, it was around 1503 when Archbishop Rovere managed to get his people close to Alexander VI and control Cantrera. Otherwise, without this poison, he would not dare to do it easily. If the Pope was murdered, it would shock the whole of Europe. But if the Pope was poisoned by his own poison, people would think it was an accident and a very funny thing, not a conspiracy. Marin smiled. What if I happen to have a pack of Cantrera? Impossible, only a few members of the Borgia family have this kind of poison. I forgot to mention that when I rescued Angela in Italy, I encountered a group of assassins who were chasing Angela. The leader was called Umberto. Umberto? That little wolf cub. He was trained by the Borgia family to be a killer leader. Archbishop Rovere was also very clear about the situation of the mortal enemy family. Yes, when I rescued Angela, I killed him and found a pack of Cantrella on him. Are you telling the truth? Archbishop Rovere stood up in shock. If he had Cantrera, plus the connections and manpower he had built up in the Vatican over the years, it would not be impossible for him to murder Alexander VI. Of course, I not only have the powder, but I also know the antidote to this poison. Yes, there should be an antidote for this poison. But what if there is an antidote after Alexander VI was poisoned? Wouldn't all my work be in vain? Archbishop Rovere suddenly felt a little discouraged. The antidote to that poison is to cut open the stomach of a living mule, crawl into it and immerse your body in the hot blood and internal organs. Doesn't that mean that this poison is useless? As long as the other party prepares 2 mules, they can detoxify it. Father-in-law, you can add some other poison in it. That way, even if the other party uses this method to detoxify Cantrera, other poisons can still kill him. And because the toxicity of Cantrera is too obvious, everyone still thinks that he died of Cantrera. Besides, Alexander VI is old, and that kind of drastic detoxification method may not be suitable for him. Maybe his body can't last until the detoxification. Indeed, in history, Alexander VI and his son Caesar Borgia were poisoned together, but the son survived by getting into the stomach of a mule, but his hair fell out and his body was severely damaged. Alexander VI didn't even survive the mule's stomach and died of pain. After all, he was 72 years old when he was poisoned, not as young and strong as Caesar. That's great, dear son-in-law, give me the powder. Excited, Archbishop Rovere had already forgiven Marin's disrespect. Thinking of the possibility of becoming the Pope, in order to get Cantrera as soon as possible, he changed his face and immediately recognized Marin as his son-in-law. Marin was also not used to Archbishop Rovere's change of face. However, he still went back to the secret room of the palace and took out the package he had obtained by touching the corpse. However, before giving it to Archbishop Rovere, he poured half of it and put it in another leather bag, keeping it for himself. After all, the package of Cantrera seized from Umberto was a lot, and to poison a person, just grab a little bit. Even if only half was given to Archbishop Rovere, it would be enough for him to poison more than a dozen people. This poison powder is white and crystal clear, and is colorless and tasteless when put into water, dissolving immediately in water. Therefore, it is difficult for ordinary people to detect that they have been poisoned. Is this Cantrera? You said you seized it last year. It won't go bad now, right? Archbishop Rovere was a little worried that the poison would become ineffective. Don't worry, I've seen it. These are all inorganic chemical powders, not herbal medicines. As long as they are sealed and kept away from moisture and light, they are unlikely to deteriorate. Inorganic chemical powder? Archbishop Rovere didn't quite understand the term. But who cares, as long as it works. Besides, he can find an animal to test it on after he returns, anyway, the quantity is sufficient. If you have arranged the assassination, don't forget to come to me to get some money before returning to Rome to run for the Pope. Take the money. For what? Of course it's bribery. How did Alexander VI become Pope? Wasn't it bribery? Oh. I had forgotten about that. Yes, the cardinals are greedy and need to be bribed. But, dear son-in-law, that costs a lot of money. The appetites of the cardinals are very big. Is 200,000 gold coins enough? You can promise to make up the difference. Writing a blank check is also a good way to win votes. 200,000 gold coins. You can come up with so much. Archbishop Rovere was also shocked. He didn't expect that his son-in-law, a newly promoted earl of a small country, could come up with so much money. I can't afford it this year, but I will definitely be able to next year. There are too many places to spend money this year, and Marin can't even afford 200,000 in cash. But Columbus's fleet will be back in the second half of the year, and once the full ship of spices is sold, there will definitely be enough money next year. 200,000 is not enough, 300,000 will also be fine. That's great. With these 200,000 gold coins, cash, promises, and my connections, I'm sure I can impress those cardinals. When my father-in-law becomes pope, don't forget to support me. Marin's expression suddenly changed and he looked flattering. Well, that's for sure. But how can I take care of you? The pope only has control over Italy. Although the influence in Germany is not small, it is not particularly large. Otherwise, you can bring Angela back to Italy with me, and I will guarantee that you will become a duke. Alexander VI made his illegitimate son a duke. Archbishop Rovere can follow suit. I've got my eyes on the bishopric of Munster. That's why Marin refused to go to Italy. That place is now being targeted by France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire. It's definitely a powder keg. If you want to survive there, you have to be ready to fight against the three great powers at any time. Fuck. This is against the rules. Archbishop Rovere almost cursed. Marin wanted to annex a bishop state, which was really audacious. Even Maximilian I, the Holy Roman Emperor, did not dare to have such an idea. Because doing so would simply break off relations with the Holy See. Moreover, the bishopric of Munster was the territory of the Archbishop of Cologne, one of the 7 electors. Rules are made by people. When the time comes, you will be the boss of the Holy See, and you have the final say. Besides, you don't want your grandson to inherit a small East Frisia, do you? Marin laughed. You know, these bishoprics and the appointment of archbishops all require the approval of the Holy See. Although the Pope gave a bishopric to Marin, the bishopric of Munster may not buy it. But as long as he has the title, Marin can send troops to seize it. Moreover, even the appointment of the Archbishop of Cologne must be approved by the Holy See. Alexander VI even privately asked his son Caesar to control the private sale of the position of archbishop in Germany. The highest bidder wins, and he has amassed a lot of money. The Archbishop of Cologne is already old. As long as the Pope's father-in-law chooses someone who is willing to give up control of the bishopric of Munster to succeed the Archbishop of Cologne, there will be no problem. Let's talk about it later. I'll think of a solution after I become Pope. I don't know if it will work. Okay, that's all you need to say.